Mario vs. Sonic is without a doubt the greatest rivalry of all time. Now, while Mario and Sonic's rivalry was iconic during the console war of the early 90s, their relationship wasn't always like this. I think both of these mascots have grown and changed thanks to each other. The first part of Mario and Sonic's relationship is what I call as this was when Sonic learned a lot from Mario. Before Sonic was released in 1991, obviously there was a ton of time spent developing the character. And during Sonic's development, Mario was a huge influence. Sonic was precisely made to be a rival to Mario and help Sega finally break into the home console market. And in a similar vein, Mario was made to rival the success of Pac-Man and help Nintendo dominate the arcade market. Interestingly enough, both Mario and Sonic were made to target an American audience. In the early 80s, Nintendo was on the verge of collapse in America after their shoot-'em-up arcade game, Radarscope, flopped there. So they needed a new arcade game that they could make with the unsold Radarscope cabinets. And in the early 90s, Sega couldn't stand up to Nintendo's dominance in Japan, so they aimed to win over a Western audience with a new mascot character. Yuji Naka, the programmer and considered by many to be the father of Sonic the Hedgehog, was admittedly a fan of Mario's creator, Shigeru Miyamoto. He enjoyed Mario, but he wanted to make the game faster as a reward for skillful play. Thus, Sonic the Hedgehog came to be. When Sonic 1 was released, just like when Mario's first game Donkey Kong came out, it was an instant hit. After Sonic released, Sega went from a minor nuisance to Nintendo's #1 rival, and thus began Mario and Sonic's second era. Sega was not shy about wanting Sonic to oppose Mario, as they went out of their way to make fun of Mario in their advertisements. Nintendo wasn't as in your face with their insults, but there was that one time.
Okay, class, pop quiz. Question number 1. You want to buy a video game system? Super NES gives you 4 free games. Sega gives you no free games. Which do you choose?
There was also the time when Nintendo did throw a shot in Donkey Kong Country 2 when they put Sonic's shoes along with Earthworm Jim's laser next to a sign that says, "No Hopers." This competition was a good thing though, because it meant that neither franchise could slack off. If they didn't want the other team to overtake them, then they would have to consistently produce quality titles. Who knows how long it would have taken Nintendo to upgrade to 16-bit games if Sega didn't pressure them with their Genesis. But overall, Sega was definitely the underdog looking for something to prove, so they did not hold back. This is easily the most memorable era of Mario and Sonic's relationship. As Nintendo and Sega mascots respectively, they were the leaders of the console war in the early 90s. Mario was classic fun, and Sonic was the hip new trend. Mario is the nice church girl you take home to your parents, and Sonic is the chick waiting for hot girl summer. No matter which side you fall on, everyone can agree that this was a historic time in video game history. Whenever Mario dropped a banger, Sonic was right there with a bombshell of his own. In 1991 in America, Nintendo released Super Mario World, and Sega came out with Sonic 1. Super Mario World, to this day, is considered to be one of, if not the best, Mario game. Sonic 1 isn't held in as high regard today, but back then it was easily the hottest game at the time, helping the Genesis to outsell the Super Nintendo that holiday season. In 1992, the competition was just as fierce. While Mario didn't have a big home console platformer, Mario did drop Super Mario Land 2, the much improved sequel to the super popular Game Boy launch title, as well as Super Mario Kart, the first game in the enormously popular Mario Kart subseries. Meanwhile, Sonic came out with Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which at the time was the fastest selling video game of all time. 1993 wasn't as exciting at the time, but it was an underrated year. Once again, no new big Mario platformer, but we did get 4 old ones remade in the Super Mario All-Stars pack. Sonic gave us the cult classic Sonic the Hedgehog CD on the ill-fated Sega CD, add-on console, packing gorgeous cutscenes and, in my opinion, the best Sonic soundtrack ever. 1994 was great for Sonic, but unfortunately Mario was a bit lackluster. We did get Super Mario Land 3, but that's obviously more of a Wario game. Mario's biggest release this year was a Donkey Kong remake on the Game Boy. It's a solid game, but that year it was overshadowed by the bigger Donkey Kong release, Donkey Kong Country, which helped revitalize the Super Nintendo after taking a beating from Sega. Another thing that hurts 1994 for Mario is that this was the year we got Hotel Mario.
Hey you! Get off of my cloud!
Sonic, on the other hand, brought us Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, two halves of Sonic 3 & Knuckles, considered by many to be the best Sonic game of all time. 1995 was a pretty odd year, and that's mainly because Sony catapulted onto the gaming scene with their iconic PlayStation at the end of '94 in Japan and '95 in the West. The PlayStation was an immediate success, destroying Sega's new console, the Sega Saturn, and even Nintendo's new console, the Nintendo 64, which launched the following year. Suddenly, a new challenger appeared, and now the once seminal console war between Nintendo and Sega became a war for second place. This was a pivotal moment for both companies because now Sega wasn't the plucky underdog anymore, and eventually Nintendo wasn't the top dog anymore after Sony's success. What made this even worse was that '95 was actually a pretty down year for both Sega and Nintendo's mascots. This year and the next few years after this are what some fans consider to be the first dark age of Sonic. During this time, we got underwhelming games like Knuckles Chaotix, Sonic 3D Blast, and Sonic R. The Sega Saturn didn't have a big Sonic release. There was Sonic Extreme, which was supposed to be Sonic's first leap into 3D, but it never released and would end up becoming one of the most infamous cancelled games of all time. Meanwhile, at Nintendo, Mario did drop Super Mario World 2, and while it is a good game, it couldn't save Nintendo from their big blunder of '95, the Virtual Boy. Mario's Tennis and the Virtual Boy as a whole was a huge stain on Nintendo's resume, and Sonic's relevance began to dwindle without a new 3D game on Sega's new console. Nintendo did manage to redeem themselves in '96 with Super Mario 64, a landmark title that changed gaming forever. But it still wasn't enough to beat the PlayStation. To add insult to injury, the PlayStation even had its own popular platformer mascot, Crash Bandicoot. Just look at this image from Next Generation magazine. This 1v1 had become an all-out brawl. While the PlayStation was a big threat to Nintendo and Sega during the mid-90s, Mario and Sonic managed to regain some of their popularity in the late 90s. Sega released their new console, the Dreamcast, in 1999 in America, and along with it, Sonic Adventure. This was Sonic's first true 3D platformer, and it revived the franchise. Mario never really faded into obscurity. It wasn't like the good old days, but Mario constantly released popular games like Paper Mario, Mario Party, and Mario Kart. Though unfortunately, these twilight years would not be long-lived. In early 2001, Sega had a bombshell announcement that they would be leaving the console market. For a number of reasons like piracy, lack of software, and the success of other companies' consoles, Sega's Dreamcast was a commercial failure. From now on, they'd be third-party developers for the likes of Sony and even Nintendo. Yeah, that's right, Sonic the Hedgehog, once Mario's bitter rival, would now exist on the same platform as the mustachioed hero. This had the gaming community going crazy! In June of 2001, Sega released Sonic Adventure 2 as the Dreamcast swan song, and a few months later in Japan, they'd release an updated version entitled Sonic Adventure 2 Battle on Nintendo's new console, the GameCube. On the very same day, they'd give Nintendo's new handheld, the Game Boy Advance, some love too, with a brand new Sonic title, Sonic Advance, developed by Dimps, which would take Sonic back to his 2D roots. This just goes to show you how quickly times can change. Literally 10 years ago, Sonic was Fortnite dancing all over Nintendo, and now he's on the same store shelf as the next Mario game. In 2003, Nintendo and Sega studio Amusement Vision, who would later go on to make the Yakuza games, would collaborate to create F-Zero GX on the GameCube. This was a landmark moment in the new cooperative relationship between the two companies. Also, as a sign of good faith to Nintendo, in 2005, we were given a Mario 20th anniversary artwork on the Sonic channel, giving us an almost surreal image of Sonic wearing Mario's hat. This period of time when Mario and Sonic coexisted was quite a crucial moment for both franchises. Mario and Sonic both underwent redesigns around this time. Sonic's design change was sudden, while Mario's was a bit more gradual over the years. Interestingly, they both got taller and lankier. Look at their classic designs. They're both pretty chunky boys. Sonic's got teeny little arms and legs, but that gut is hanging. You know, when I look at them both, it's uncanny how similar their designs are when you look at the details. What are the two signature colors that Mario and Sonic both wear? Blue and red. Mario's blue overalls and Sonic's blue fur. Mario's red hat and Sonic's red shoes. Mario's hat has a white accent, Sonic's shoes have a white accent. Mario wears white gloves, Sonic wears white gloves. Mario has yellow buttons, Sonic has a yellow shoe buckle. Mario is short, Sonic is short. These guys are basically the same character.
What?
But not. Mario's character designer and Sonic's new character designer, Shigeru Miyamoto and Yuji Uekawa respectively, both wanted to make their characters older. I get it, both had been around for over a decade at this point, so it made sense. Miyamoto wasn't a fan of how kiddie Mario was becoming. Like, look at Mario's original design. He's some ugly old guy, but over the years, he got more and more cutesy, childlike almost. And with Sonic Team wanted Sonic to be a bit more modern, and having a more lanky design would make it easier to pose in 3D, as Sonic's movements would be more noticeable. These designs represented a new age for both franchises. Sonic going multi-platform was probably one of the best decisions in the franchise yet. Accessibility is without a doubt one of the most important parts of a game's success. Sonic being on Nintendo, Sony, and newcomer Microsoft's platforms allowed kids who would have never otherwise experienced Sonic to be introduced to the Blue Blur. For Mario, nothing really crazy happened in the early 2000s. We continued to get quality Mario releases like sports games, party games, and the big new platformer Super Mario Sunshine. Unfortunately, Microsoft's Xbox and especially Sony's new PlayStation 2 ran the 6th generation of consoles, leaving the GameCube in an underwhelming 3rd place. Luckily, Nintendo did have the GBA, which was very successful at the time, and it gave us remakes of the classic Mario games in the Super Mario Advance series. In 2004, we got Nintendo's next handheld, the DS, and thanks to its innovative touchscreen and double screen features, it became Nintendo's best-selling system of all time. In 2006, we got the Nintendo Wii, which brought in a whole new wave of casual fans with its revolutionary motion controls, leading to the Wii becoming Nintendo's best-selling home console until the Nintendo Switch passed it in early 2022. Things were looking good for both Mario and Sonic. Well, Sonic did have a small blunder, but besides that. At E3 2007, we got the wildest trailer in video game history.
Two great heroes. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
To say the internet exploded would be an understatement. Apparently, talks of a Mario and Sonic team-up have happened since at least 2005, when it was revealed Yuji Naka and Shigeru Miyamoto had been having secret conversations. The game was announced back in late March, and some people thought this was a joke. Some of the comments on the news announcement are hilarious. The big question though is, can the Miyamoto forces of quality overpower the Sonic team forces of disappointment? Well, I normally am quite uninterested in Mario sports games, so this is a good way to make one stand out and seem like a big deal. Though a Mario and Sonic team-up doesn't quite have the same oomph anymore now that Sonic, sucks. Sega's developing the game? I think I'll pass then. I'd love to see an Olympics game done right, and Sega is not someone I could see pulling it off.
Oh my god.
People had no faith in Sega at this point. Keep in mind, this was literally less than 4 months after Sonic 06 dropped in North America. So Sonic's stock was at an all-time low. A lot of people thought that this was gonna be a carry job. Mario had been doing insanely well around this time with hit games like Mario Kart DS, New Super Mario Bros., and the upcoming Super Mario Galaxy. So some fans thought that this was Sonic desperately trying to stay relevant after several poorly received games. The game just seemed weird. These were two platforming mascots crossing over in a sports sim? It was amazing to finally see these former enemies finally go through their character development and become friends, but to see them do it at the Beijing 2008 Olympics? However, not too long before the game was released, we got another pretty crazy trailer.
Sonic's the name, Speed's my game.
Okay, so I said the internet exploded when Mario and Sonic was first announced, but Sonic in Brawl? Well, the internet got nuked when this happened. This proved that even if Sonic couldn't put out a quality game, he still was a quality brand. He was still a character tons of people deeply cared about. And this is a lesson that still proves to be true to this day. Sonic Forces was Sonic's last big game release all the way back in 2017, and despite unfavorable reviews, Sonic's 2020 movie blew all expectations out the water, having the best video game movie debut of all time. And while many are not optimistic about the upcoming Sonic Frontiers, Sonic's 2022 movie broke the first movie's debut record, and fans are foaming at the mouth to see the third movie. I'm glad Mario and Sonic have continued to be successful, and I'm really glad they've become good friends. The Mario and Sonic Olympic series is still going strong. Sonic continues to show up in Smash games and has had a few cameos in Mario/Mario adjacent games. Sonic even got a Nintendo Amiibo figure. All of this goes to show you that your greatest enemies can become your best friends. Even burned bridges can be repaired. It's never too late to make amends. Just keep an open mind and try to have fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please click the like button if you enjoyed. It takes less than 5 seconds and it really helps the channel grow. If you want to see more videos like this one, then please click the subscribe button too. It's not going to cost you anything. If you guys have an idea for a new video I could do, then please leave it in the comment section below. Thanks guys, don't hold any grudges if you don't have to, and have a good one.